Hi, it's Stephen here at classact, and today I want to introduce you to two new products from a company called Papericious. These two products are glitter powders. One comes as crystal clear and the other one comes as frosting powder. Now there is a slight difference between the two and I'm going to explain those to you. But first of all, I want you to know something. These two products are exclusive to classact in Oshawa. You will not find them anywhere else. And Carol has a special arrangement with the supplier who's in India for these two products. So they are very new on the market and they are fantastic. So let's just talk about the difference between the two when you first purchase them. Let's talk about the crystal clear. Crystal clear comes in this little container and there's quite a bit of glitter in each of these containers. When you first open it up, you're going to have a plastic seal. You just pop that off and there's all your glitter inside. Now, this is not a full can of the glitter because I have used some of it, but you can see it has multiple colors in there. You see the little colored specks, and it's a fairly fine glitter. When this dries transparent. Now the frosted powder, or frosting powder as it is actually called, is slightly different in that when you open it up, it looks very much the same as the crystal clear, but you heat set this one to dry. And what it does is it becomes more opaque, more of a, well, as it's called, a frosting kind of appearance. Now I'll show you the difference between the two on actual applications. But as I said, both of these products are exclusive to classact. You cannot get them anywhere else. So let's look at what these two do and what makes them a little different from other glitters. Well, first of all, I did something very basic with glitter powder. I'll just put that one to this side and put that one to this side so you can see the two. On this particular one, I simply had a die cut of a butterfly. It was cut out of some paper that I had made using just alcohol inks, I think, at one time, or possibly acrylic paint. You know, just random papers. This could be cardstock, this could be pattern paper, scrapbook paper, whatever. I cut out my die, and then with a brush, I brushed on a thin coat of glue. Now the glue that I'm using, it can be any kind of glue that dries clear. Two of my preferences are Designer Dries Clear, which is by Art Glitter, which is very popular glue, and the Tim Holtz Distress Collage Medium. Both of these dry clear, both of them dry relatively fast. So as I said, you just simply brush them on to the surface, or you could dip the edges into a little puddle of the glue. Depends on where you want to put the glitter. And then just sprinkle generously your glitter over the surface, the part that is the glue on it. Shake off the excess, deposit it back into the jar, just as you would if you were doing a heat embossing technique and using embossing powder, and then let it dry. Now you can dry it with a heat gun. Be careful. Most glues are fine with some heat added to them, but some of the glues, especially the cheaper ones, may bubble up on you. So you really don't want that. But just gently dry it or let it air dry. It doesn't take very long if you're using the two products I've already recommended. So you can see I've done this technique with both the crystal clear and the frosting powder. And you can see the difference. The crystal clear is, as the name says, it's clear, but you have that sparkle. Whereas the frosting powder is more like cake frosting. It's more opaque and you get that sort of fluffy cloud-like effect. Now, if you use the frosting powder with a snow marker pen as well, you get the most beautiful snow that you've ever seen created on a card. It actually looks like little crystals of snow, and both are very, very shiny, as you can see. Sometimes glitter, if you use glue with glitter, the glue will dull the finish in the glitter. Not in the case of these two by Papericious. Also, if you're doing flowers, which many people like to do, again, I used the clear crystal on this particular flower, and in this case, I just sprayed the glue on and then poured on my crystal clear and just dumped off the excess. But I could have gone around the edges as well with glue, or just dipped the petals in slightly and still got a really dazzling effect. Okay, so that's a fairly basic technique, but let's move on. Here's crystal clear on 2 pieces of cardstock, and I used a stencil with these. And I simply took my stencil and I'll just find the stencil here. Here's the stencil I used. You could use any stencil. It doesn't have to be this particular one. And I just laid my stencil down, and I used a palette knife. You could use a credit card. You could use your fingers. And I just applied the medium, the collage medium, right through the stencil. I just smoothed it over, carefully lifted off the stencil, and then sprinkled the clear crystal powder onto this. I tapped off the excess, returned the excess back into the jar, and this is the product that I got. Now you can see the white cardstock underneath it. Now, if you're having trouble seeing that because it's white on white basically, here's what it looks like on a piece of colored cardstock. Look at the dazzle, the way the light bounces off of that stencil. And as I said, you could use any stencil you like. But you'll notice that it does dry clear. Now, if you use the Frost It using the same method, let's see the difference. So here is the Frost It on a white cardstock. It's a little bit more difficult to see, but if I can get up close enough, you'll notice that it is more opaque. Let me just pull up the one that was on the other. It's a subtle difference, but you see how much clearer the crystal clear is as compared to the Frost It? Now, for a little better comparison, I'll show you the same on a piece of colored cardstock. So you see, you get that fluffy whiteness with the dazzle of the glitter. So what else can we do with it? Well, how about texture paste? I used, in this case, the Ranger texture paste in the matte. It comes in matte and in gloss. I decided to use the matte because it's already very shiny with the crystal clear. And I just took a little bit out of my jar with a palette knife, laid it down on my craft mat, sprinkled some of the crystal clear right into the texture paste, mixed it up with my palette knife, and then using a stencil again, I just smoothed it through the stencil. I did the same thing with the frosting powder, and you can see the difference. And again, I put these on colored cardstock so they'd show up better in the video, but you could put them on any surface. It takes a little longer to dry, but when it dries, it almost looks like rock candy. And it is a very substantial glitter as well, and it doesn't really rub off. And the frosting, again, it looks like frosting. Think of this on a card. How beautiful that would be. But there's still more. What if you don't like the color? They only come in the crystal clear, only comes in the color I've shown you, which is basically a translucent white crystal-y color, and the frosting powder the same with it. So how do you colorize it? Well, this is very easy. These powders will take alcohol inks very readily. All you do is put some of the crystal clear or some of the frosting powder into a little cup, add a couple of drops of alcohol ink, stir it around. I used a palette knife. You could use a toothpick, a popsicle stick, and this is the end result. You get colored crystals. That's frosting powder, and this is the clear crystal. And then you simply apply it using any of the methods I've already mentioned, and you have colored glitter. Simple as that. So basically your colors are limitless. You can customize them to whatever you want with using just alcohol ink. So that's another method. I got a little experimental with this next one. I wondered how these powders would work with spray inks, you know, like the Delusions type of spray inks. Now these are water-based, these inks, and you could also use them with the distress inks that are in the spray bottles, the spray inks. Pretty much any kind of spray ink you can use them with. What I did here is I simply, let me find another example for you. I did exactly what I did here, except on white cardstock. I used the stencil again. I put the glue through the stencil. I sprinkled on the crystal clear, and I let it dry. Then, on this card, I simply took 3 colors of Delusions ink, stood back, gave them a spritz all over it, and dried them with my heat gun. And this is the effect. So now, my glitter has come out a little bit tinted in color. You still have the sparkle though, which makes it interesting because some glitters, if you were to use spray inks on them, would dull the finish, but it doesn't on this. See the sparkle? Try and get the light so you can see this. And it does alter the color slightly, but it is a more translucent color rather than when you color it with alcohol inks. So that's another effect that you can get. You could do the same thing with the frosting powder, except of course the frosting powder is more opaque, so your color is probably going to be a little deeper, a little richer. It all depends on your personal taste. Now the last technique I want to show you, which I think makes this an incredibly versatile product, is creating glitter paper. I simply took a piece of cardstock, in this case white, in this case blue, and I laid down some glue. Again, I did it the same way as I did it with the other techniques. I took a paintbrush and just brushed on the glue, and then I covered it in the crystal clear. Let it dry, and again, I did apply a heat gun to it, although I could have just let it air dry. And when it was thoroughly dry, I ran it through my die cutting machine and I created these butterflies. Now on the white butterfly, and I put it on a blue background so it'll show up better for the video, you can see the sparkle, but I also did it on a piece of colored cardstock as well. And again, you can see how this works. So rather than making all your die cuts first, then covering them glue, then adding the glitter, you can simply do it by creating a glitter sheet, whatever size you need, let it dry, and then cut out your shapes. And I also did it with the frosting powder. And here you can see, that's actually on blue. See underneath? That's actually on blue. So you can see how more opaque the frosting powder is as compared to the crystal clear. I am sure there's a million other things you can do with this glitter, but this is a very versatile glitter. It's a very substantial glitter. It works in multiple techniques. So I think you'll enjoy it. Come into the store. As I said, Carol has the exclusive rights to this product. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And it's a new and exciting product. If you have any questions, give us a call at the store and we'll be happy to answer your questions for you. And come on in and see these samples up close as well. Carol will have them at the front desk. See you later. Bye-bye.